Hi dear viewers, welcome to another video from Hostile Territory. In this video we'll be talking about something that is very specific when you work in a toxic workplace and when you're among toxic people, and that is social isolation. There's a good chance if you work in these kinds of toxic environments that you'll come across people starting to avoid you. They don't want to talk to you. They have their own sort of social gatherings where you are excluded from that, and so on. If you don't know how to cope with it, it can damage you in certain ways. We'll be talking about that. Hopefully this video will help you if you come across the same situation, so stay tuned. Hostile territory. A human being, by its definition, is a social being. So besides food, shelter, water, clothing, heating, and everything else, a person needs social interaction with other people. It's a necessity. And if you don't get it, just like if you don't have these other necessities like food, water, shelter, heating, and everything else, you will get, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, damaged over time. It's something in the human psyche that is built into us. I guess it's something that comes from, times when we were living together in tribes, in these kinds of smaller communities, when we relied on each other for survival and everything else, and it comes from those times. All in all, if you don't have regular social contacts with other people, it will affect you. Well, why is this important? Mostly because for you to understand how big this problem is and that you should not neglect it. For instance, lots of people will tell you, oh no, well, who cares? Just get the paycheck, get the benefits, come home, have a good time with your family or your friends, and who cares if people don't like you at work, if they don't want to socialize with you, if you don't go to gatherings, who cares? Well, it's not like that, especially if you have to do it for a prolonged period of time. And we'll be talking about this later in the video. If you have to do it for a shorter time, then that is perhaps okay to some extent. But if you have to do it for a longer period of time, then perhaps this video will have a bigger effect for you. All in all, acknowledge this problem. Social isolating from other people is a serious problem, and especially if you're experiencing it in a workplace. In the workplace, you're gonna spend at least, half of your life, perhaps sadly, but that's the fact, almost half of your life. And through that time, if you don't have proper social interactions, then you can have certain consequences. What will you probably encounter regarding social isolation in a workplace, and in a toxic workplace especially? You will probably encounter things like that people will not want to talk to you, or if they do, they will talk to you only as much as they have to. They will do this in a pretty rude manner, so you'll probably get the picture that something is wrong. They will not want to socialize with you at work, with those little things that make a workplace better, like eat with you together, have a cup of coffee with you, have a cup of tea. None of that will happen. They will not even small talk to you. They will not share any kind of information with you. It can get worse. They even don't want to be physically with you in the same office unless they have to. They will avoid your presence altogether, and on this part, I can say that there are sort of two levels of this. The first level is that, and it all depends on how much people can't stand you. The first level is that people are still socializing with you, but only to the point of their own interests. They will socialize with you as much as they need you and as much as it suits their own interests. And the other level, which is more dramatic, and that is that they don't want to have anything with you. Okay, they put you into silence mode, and this is the worst part. What is also important for you to know is why people are isolating themselves socially from you. This is very important. And as I mentioned in a lots of videos, whenever you're managing some sort of situation, it's always good to know why people are doing this. Once you notice it, and this is again the first step, acknowledge the problem. And once you notice it, try to find why the problem is happening. Are the people socially isolating themselves from you because they have to, because they want to, because maybe it's something you're doing wrong? It could be something very benign, like they don't like your perfume. I don't know, I'm making this up. Or it could be something serious, like the way you act and you're not even aware of it. So again, just like with many situations, before you react and before you start applying the sort of methods that I'm going to tell you in the next part of the video, think about everything. Just try to be as objective as possible. Pull yourself away from that situation and try to look at it from an objective stance. Perhaps you may see that there is something wrong with you, and if you adjust that, you can perhaps, defuse the whole problem and change the opinion of those other people towards you. It's definitely worth the try, definitely worth consideration. But if you see that people simply don't like you and they're avoiding you because of who you are and what you do, and what you are doing is good for the company, good for everybody else, then use these measures. First of all, and this is very important, limit your time at work. How should you do this? Well, I made a specific video on this topic, how to slack at work, how to avoid work and everything else, and that is similar to this. You have to plan it out. For instance, and of course, if the company lets you do this and you don't want to get fired because of this, but if you can, then for instance, if you work from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, get to work at 5 minutes to 8, okay? Don't, like many good workers, arrive half an hour before that to prepare yourself. Just be there at 5 minutes till 8. Get to work and jump in and start working. It is also the same thing when you're leaving work. If the work is until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, start preparing yourself to jump out of there as soon as you can. The moment the bell rings at 5 o'clock, get out of there and leave. Any kind of overtime at work and you spending more time at work is more exposure to this kind of social isolation. And the key factor here is to be as less exposed as possible. When you think about social isolation, think about a radiation problem. The more you're exposed to radiation, there is a bigger possibility of you getting some sort of disease, So spend as less time as you can in the workplace. Next, focus on your work. If you are too focused on the social isolation problem during those 8 hours while you're at work, let's say it's 8 hours, then you're gonna become sort of bogged down with it. You're gonna it's gonna be in your head nonstop. You may get depressed and all of that, and you don't want that to happen. You have to stay sharp and you have to get that out of your head. To do that, work is the best possible tool you can have while you're there. So the moment you arrive at work, focus only on work. For instance, if you get to work and you get sad because you can't talk to anyone, because you can't joke with anyone, you can't have a cup of coffee with anyone, forget about that. Just take it as a fact and do the work that's in front of you. Even if you don't have that much work, find something to do, try to learn something, anything that will get your mind off of that problem. Next, very important, ignore the behavior of the coworkers that are socially isolating you. What do these people want, essentially? One of the things they want, that was at least in my case, they want to see that you are hurting. They want to see that you are suffering from the social isolation, and from this they get some sort of weird satisfaction. Well, when you're ignoring them, they will not get this kind of satisfaction. Sometimes it will be hard to ignore people this way. They may be talking behind. You may notice that they are talking behind your back. You may notice that they are making fun of you behind your back, or perhaps directly. There may be some sort of gossip, there may be some sort of bad mouthing, but all in all, a very effective tool against all this is to ignore them. The best way to do this is to simply pretend, especially if they're not involved in the work you're doing, just pretend they're not there. They're invisible and that you're on your own in the office. Just, do your own thing, and again, try to get out of there as soon as possible. The next super practical and super easy thing to do is to take breaks. Take as much breaks in your workplace as possible. Try to get yourself out of that office, out of that toxicity, of that social isolation as much as possible. Again, here the exposure is the main problem. What helped me, and I would recommend this, take walks. If you're not hungry, if you're not going to spend your lunch break on eating, then you can go and have a long walk around the building, around the perimeter. If you have some sort of forest around you, whatever, just take a good long walk. What this will do, again, is take you away from that bad atmosphere that you're exposed to, and at the same time, you'll be able to recuperate. One of the biggest problems when you're socially isolated is that it starts over time closing on you, and it starts applying this sort of pressure on you and on your psyche. I hope I use the right expression. and you start, again, you can start feeling down and depressed because of this, and starting to ask yourself all sorts of questions. Why are they doing this? What is happening to me? Why am I so unlucky? All in all, you'll get yourself in a bad position. With that break and with that walk, you will again be able to rest yourself and give yourself some much needed energy to bridge that gap between that break and for you arriving home. Now, know this. What you are going through with social isolation is very demanding, and one of the best ways to get through it is to reward yourself here and there. By this, I mean little things like treating yourself with good food, with some nice drinks, buying yourself something that you like. All in all, giving yourself some sort of thank you for all this heavy stuff that you're going through. Finally, find someone that you can trust and have a good conversation about all of this. Having a good conversation and just spilling out all of these problems is a big help, and it will be not only a big help from the psychological aspect of it all, but it will also help you if you have to be there in that toxic workplace for a prolonged period of time. It will immensely help you in tolerating all that. A spouse, a friend, a relative, a parent, anyone who you can trust, have that conversation. And if that person is a really good friend of yours and really means well to you, then they will not only listen to you and listen to what you have, but they will also help you. Trust me, this is immensely helpful. One more thing that I must mention, and that is to, once you're finished with your shift and with that social isolation, once you come home, socialize with other people. So essentially what you do is you come home, you forget about the work, you forget about all of that, and this is an ability of its own. And it takes time to learn, but it is also very useful. I'll make a specific video on that topic. Anyway, come home, forget about everything, and socialize, okay? If you're a younger person, if you don't have a family, go out with your friends, have a good time, and indulge yourself. If you have a family, spend time with your family, go out somewhere, go out for a walk, have a good time. And as you'll see, this has a very big healing effect. What you're essentially doing is taking a wound at the workplace and you're healing it once you arrive home. Closely related to this, if you're not careful with how you manage all of this social isolation thing, you can easily become a different person and you can start bringing all of that home with you. And I've talked about this in a specific other video, how to protect your loved ones from a toxic workplace. You become a different person and you start to bring this baggage back home. Avoid that, and to avoid that, have as less exposure as you can to the workplace, to that social isolation. Come home, have a good time, and you will recuperate for the next day. Now, dear viewers, your ability to endure and tolerate this social isolation in a toxic workplace has a serious expiration date. You can only do it to some extent and get out of it unharmed. If you have to tolerate it for, like I did, for 10 long years, there will be damage to some extent. My coworkers did this to me for 10 long years, and at the same time I was aware of what they were doing. I had my methods which were similar or the same to one that I told you to fight this, but it's hard being alone. It's hard watching people having a good time at work, or joking around, having friends, seeing each other and everything else, and you being the sort of, I don't know how to put it, the one that's isolated, the one that's in the special box, in the corner of the room. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's like depriving you from food and water. You can say you don't want food and water all you want, but when you get hungry or thirsty, it affects you. Sadly, if you're seriously exposed to isolation in the company, you're gonna have to get out of there as soon as possible. And it is just like with revenge in a toxic workplace. It is one of the bad things that happen in those kinds of environments where you cannot solve it. Whatever you do, it's going to be the same. People simply don't like you. In most cases, like it was in my case, because of their own petty interests, their own ideas, because of their own goals and everything else, they will simply push you out of the company. What am I trying to say? The moment you notice social isolation, start asking for other jobs. It's not a good sign. Again, you can try and observe the situation and see that it's not something that's up to you, that it's not your fault. Then start searching for another job as soon as possible. In the meantime, again, use these methods that I've shown you. I think they will help, and try to save yourself as much as possible so you can preserve yourself for other jobs, other companies, other lines of work, perhaps for your family, preserve your health, which is the most important, and so on. So dear viewers, that's it for this time. I hope this video helps. If you find the time, please like and subscribe. It's a huge help for the channel and what we're doing. As I say in all of my videos, all of this has one main and sole purpose, and that is to help you get through tough times in a toxic workplace as unharmed as possible. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for your time.